Hey there, Fluffybunny here, and this is just a quick recap of a game of Old World that I recently had with FilthyRobot. It was a duel. Filthy has actually recorded himself playing all his turns. If you haven't seen it yet and don't want to be spoiled, I recommend you go check that out first. I'll put a link to to his recordings in the video description. I didn't record all my turns, so I just want to give a general overview of how the game went, show some of the stats, and talk a little bit about how I think it could have gone differently. So this is my empire. I was playing Rome versus Filthy's Egypt. This is my capital, Roma. I settled a landowner capital exactly as Filthy did for the growth bonus, just to get workers and settlers off the ground really quickly. So my game, I cleared this barbarian camp here first, and then moved up and cleared this Danish camp. I never actually ended up settling either of them, because this was a barbarian camp. It didn't respawn, but the Danish camp did respawn. I just left it to its own devices. So I ended up coming down here, settling my second city in this 4 sorghum tile area. Unlike Filthy, I didn't make this another landowner seat. I went champions for this one, because I wanted to get my steadfast warriors out quickly to clear barbarians, as there were a lot of them hanging around, which was definitely helpful. Next, I came down. Well, the next city I settled was down here, the 3 marble seat. So Filthy obviously wanted this for his sage's seat, or he settled this for his sage's seat. We had banned inquiries for this game because Filthy has decided, and I agree, that they are currently overpowered. So while I didn't have sages, I did have statesmen, which lets me do decrees. So this city was great for decrees because even with just the 1 marble specialist, I can still get a 2-turn decree going, which is 6 orders every 2 turns, which is pretty good. Pretty healthy order economy going. So yeah, that was my third city, and I came down here, settled this one, and at that point, I basically had an army of 5 or so warriors sitting around not doing much, and I started eyeing up Filthy's lands. So there was a Numidian, I think, tribal camp here, one of the horse ones, Numidian or Scythian, which I came and bombarded to death in a couple of turns very quickly, immediately settled after, just in time before Filthy settled Henen. And that was actually quite good timing on my part because it meant I got this urban tile, which Filthy would have grabbed otherwise. Which you may think is not a huge deal, but it did also give me all these coast tiles here, which helped with quicker movement from the front lines, getting people moving over this coast and then over this coast. Definitely speeded up my reinforcements a lot, which I think was quite big. So yeah, so Filthy settled the city. I moved in. We had traded units back and forth. We both killed a unit for a few turns before Filthy started to run a little bit low on units and retreated back, at which point I took his city, which he was not very happy about. I kind of held that, and again we traded units for a couple of turns before I moved back to heal up, and Filthy decided to try and take advantage of that, pushed in, killed a spearman, and I pushed back quite hard, killed a couple of his units, trapped this one here, which basically caused Filthy to surrender. That and the fact that he's getting horribly raided by tribal units, which doesn't help either. I had the advantage of having cleared at least a couple of these sites first, so I was definitely having less of a hard time with barbarians at this point. So yeah, that was the game really. So it lasted, I think it was 37 turns. I think I played another turn since, but no, I haven't. Sorry, I haven't. Yeah, he surrendered on turn 37, and it's turn 38 for me now. So that was the game. Just to show you what that looks like on the game log. Let's just get that up. Which is one of these buttons here. I can remember which. If we just skip back to the start, toggle the fog on, We'll just skip through that quickly to see how it happened. So I settled my second city a bit quicker than Filthy. Just go with iron working first. Filthy started doing the pyramids. We got our one courtier we got during the game. We both settled our third city down here. So I went for the marble city as my third, whereas Filthy went down here for his rider's seat, I think it was. Filthy does the pyramids. He settled his fourth city before me. We then settle down here. So we're very even at this point, and then we settle here. So again, we're very even at this point, except I've forward settled a bit because I haven't settled. I could have settled this city here, but I decided I want to push on and forward settle a bit further first. And then I backfill that a couple of turns later. So I'm now a city up. So as I said, yeah, we're just expanding borders at this point, grabbing a couple of urban tiles. What's going on now? Getting military drilled, so we can start getting our barracks up. So this is me taking Filthy City. We just have a couple of turns back and forth here, and that's it. That's the game. That was over. So stat-wise, there's a new feature that's just coming in. The stats are a little bit light in this build, but there are more coming in the next patch. So we can see from this that we produced the most military units, but there is no tooltip in this version, but in the next version there will be, and I can tell you that I believe we were exactly even on military units produced, and I think I even lost one more military unit than Filthy did. I killed a lot more, but I think that was mainly tribes rather than his units. Filthy did quite well on. Well, let's just have a look. Actually, let's have a look at civics rate. Filthy had that huge high charisma leader, so he got a lot more civics than I did. Training wise, even though Rome gets a lot of training, these graphs actually count the excess left over. So although I had a lot of training, I was spending it all building military units, which Filthy wasn't. So that's why he's got a higher training graph there. Science, I have a respectable lead, slim lead, but yeah, it gets better in the late game. Money, yeah, reasonable. Orders we're pretty similar on. Filthy has a decent amount more food. I have a decent amount more iron. And yeah, pretty similar on stone and wood. Wood Filthy's on -1 because he built a granary. But yeah, you can see on military score, I built a lot more. We're pretty even till turn 10, and then I start shooting up. And this is obviously where we start fighting. We both both go down where we're losing units. It's actually in the late game. Filthy is more powerful than me. He's exceeded me because he's rushing a lot of units here, whereas I keep losing them and not replenishing them faster. It's interesting that while Rome does have a great production rate, you just can't beat civics for rushing production. The ability to create a unit in one turn, you just can't do that without insane amount of training, which Rome just doesn't have. So we're actually pretty even on units. And the big advantage I had is this early advantage here. So when we first collided, I was able to hold my own despite not being in my own ground, taking him on where he perhaps had maybe not a huge advantage, but it's definitely a slight advantage for being in his own territory and being near a city and being able to heal. So that caused a pretty even fight there, I think. Territory owned, yeah, it was fairly self-explanatory. Territory explored, yeah, Filthy explored loads more territory. One of the stats that's coming in the next version is goody huts. I think he got about double my goody huts, maybe slightly more. Triple my courtiers, considerably more What did he get considerably more of? Considerably more of something else. Improvements. He did a lot more improvements than I did. So yeah, it was an interesting game. A few things I'd say. I mean, yeah, I built a lot more units early. While I did have the training production, Filthy did have the civics, so he could have rushed more units earlier. He could have had at least a couple more units if he'd rushed every turn that he could in Reset. He could have had at least a couple more units for that initial fight, which would have made a big difference at this stage in the game. It is hard to defend in this game, but it's a lot easier if you've got the units to do it with, especially a nice line of units lining up against that city would have been quite hard to push into. The other thing I just wanted to point out is that this is we're playing a mirror map. So in old world, mirror maps mean that there is a dividing line down the center of the map, a vertical dividing line, and they're mirrored on either side of that map. So you can see this is the middle of the map. You've got identical seas either side, identical mountain ranges here, and identical capital sites just the other side of that mountain. So one thing that's worth noting, if you are playing on a mirror map, there's a lot of information you can get right from the start of the game. So you can see, for example, our urban tile in the middle of our capital. It's on the tooltip, just in the bottom right down here. You can see it says tile 4521. So that means it's 45 tiles to the right and 21 tiles above the bottom left corner of the map. So the bottom left corner is 0, 0 essentially. And we're 45 in and 21 up. You can also tell the width of the map going into the options here. Map size large, which is width of 58. So we know that it's mirrored down the middle. So we know a width 58 map is going to have its middle point at half of 58 or 29. So this is tile 29, right in the middle here. We also know, as we've started on 4521, we are 45 minus 29 is 16 tiles away from the middle, which means Filthy would also 16 tiles away from the middle. So we know from turn 1 that he's 32 tiles away directly this way. So you know from turn 1 exactly where your opponent is on a mirror map. So I think that's important information to keep in mind. Filthy did struggle to find me initially on when he was scouting. But yeah, it was an interesting fight. I think it perhaps ended a little prematurely. These raiders definitely didn't help. Without them, and without this I would say slightly ambitious push into the middle here, Filthy could have held out quite a bit longer. And his economy was definitely in a better shape than mine, so he perhaps could have got the upper hand. When I was teching to composite bone 6 turns, while I don't have any wood, I do have a lot of things I could sell for wood, so that definitely would have tipped it again in my favour. So yeah, it was an interesting game, definitely. And while Filthy may not have enjoyed it, I certainly did. So yeah, I do very much like this game, and yeah, look forward to uploading more videos in the future of some turns. But anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.